It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. 8 years I've been doing this show, bringing my expert news and reviews of the real estate market, the housing market, so that you're better informed as a consumer. You know what's going on in the market. You understand the process, the trends within it, so that when it comes time for you to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you can win. That's what this show is all about. And I got to tell you, this show, we've got some really important stuff to talk about. We've got the stock market going way down. We've got the coronavirus that's spreading like wildfire. There is an impact to the housing market. I want to talk about that and really help you guys understand what could be in store for us. I really want to tie this into the housing market because it does have an effect on it. And let me just say really quickly that if you'd like to reach out to my real estate team, of course, aside from doing this show, I run a real estate team here in Charleston. We've sold over 1,000 homes, represented about $500 million worth of real estate, and we'd love to earn your business. So as you're listening, if you think I'm somebody you'd like to work with to help you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please give me a call. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009, or visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So let's dive right into this. People are hesitant to buy and sell homes during election years, but frankly, they're hesitant to do anything when uncertainty exists. And there are some blind corners that we've been faced with in our market now. We don't know what's going to happen economically as it relates to how much money you have invested in the stock market or what's going to happen in the housing market. But people are finally kind of coming to grips with the fact that there is an impact of the coronavirus on our local, regional, national economy. And housing is certainly a big part of that. How big? I took some stats from some congressional research to give you guys an idea of just how impactful the housing market is to our national economy. And at the individual level, roughly 65% of households are owner-occupied. And of those owner-occupied properties, it accounts for about a quarter of that household's net worth. If you look at something like employment, back at the peak of our market, housing-related jobs were at about 1 million. We had about 1 million housing-related jobs, especially in the construction side of things. Then when the market crashed, it cut almost in half. I think it got down to 560,000 people in 2011 that were employed as it related to building homes. Now we're up to like 830,000 as of last year. But obviously, when we look at housing and the broader economy, the housing market is incorporated into GDP, gross domestic product, and it's the prominent measure, of course, of economic activity. And it does that really in two ways. And the first is that GDP includes all spending on things like the construction of single-family and multifamily homes, remodeling, real estate agents' fees. It's all kind of bundled into what they call residential fixed investments. And as of 2018, that was about $785 billion. It was about 3.5% of GDP. But the other way is that it looks at the spending associated with housing services, which includes things like rent, utilities, rent that is received by homeowners. That was about $2.6 trillion. It was about 12% of GDP. So taken together, spending within the housing market itself accounts for 15% of GDP. But it has a broader and more indirect impact on the economy. I mean, housing prices can impact residential investments and therefore affect economic growth. And when you have rising home prices, it obviously encourages additional spending on things like remodeling your home, which leads to a more robust economy. And of course, a decline has the opposite effect. It leads to a more depressed economy. And so fluctuations in the housing market, particularly housing prices, can have broader effects on the economy through what we call wealth effects. So an increase in the housing value encourages homeowners to spend more than they do at other times for, of course, a variety of reasons, and like things like having higher confidence in the economy or increased equity for homeowners to borrow against. So that, think about all the people that were doing really well 10, 12 years ago, started pulling money out and they bought a boat and they went on vacation and they just took the money out of their house and they spent it. Obviously, that had an economic impact. While, of course, a decrease in prices results in just the opposite. I mean, in the U.S., consumer spending makes up about 70% of the economy. So obviously, any changes in housing wealth can result in significant changes in economic growth. And so you've got the stock market drop that obviously reflects the investors' panic over the possible effects of the global economy and causing regular folks to worry about their retirement funds. And already, mortgage interest rates have fallen to, nearly 8-year lows as investors take their money out of the stock market and they put it into cash or they put it into something like T-bonds, treasury bonds. When bonds usually are strong, it usually means that mortgage rates go down. So this is obviously, this is the short-term impact. This is the short-term boon for buyers that might be on a budget or sellers that, are trying to drum up some additional offers on their house. But a prolonged stock market plunge could obviously put the brakes on all the appreciation that we've seen, all of the factors that are driving our real estate to be more valuable and that are causing buyers to spend that money for those homes. I mean, we have agreement among buyers that they're going to pay a certain price for a home like yours. And obviously sellers want to push the envelope as much as they can. They want to get as much money as they can. And, in some instances, they're getting it. They're getting buyers to pay more than what their neighbor down the street just paid for it. It's called supply and demand. But people don't really make decisions in a vacuum. And obviously buying a house is a big one. If the stock market is kind of flashing a sign that an economic slowdown is on the way, then that's really when, Main Street feels it. And it could obviously lead to a slowdown in home sales. I mean, when you think about it, China is the world's second largest economy and the largest exporter of goods, by the way. So all the quarantines and travel bans and just disruptions to the supply chain, obviously we're going to feel that worldwide. We're going to feel that here in the U.S. And I'm just telling you now that the luxury real estate market is generally the most vulnerable when it comes to stuff like this, when it comes to stock market drops. And the reason for that is very simple. Wealthy people can afford $1 million plus homes generally, and they have more money invested in stocks. So when the market's down, it takes a bite out of their net worth. They feel it more. So, if you're feeling less wealthy, then you're less likely to make a big purchase. And for a lot of people that are buying luxury-based properties, it is a want. It is not a need. So if the stock market continues to fall, there's going to be a lot of luxury homes for sale, and there's not a lot of buyers that are going to be looking for them because they're feeling those effects. And that's kind of where it starts. So buyers right now, they're trying to juggle whether or not they should jump in when mortgage rates are really low, or if they should just kind of sit on the sideline and see what happens over the next six to 12 months. When what looks like a home that's out of reach might actually be very affordable on a monthly payment schedule. We always focus on pricing, right? But And I try to get you guys to focus on this. Focus on the payment. Focus on the cost of ownership. The cost of ownership is incredibly low. We hit 8-year lows on interest rates. But there's an additional complication. If this virus spreads to the U.S., I mean, think about what could happen here. I can already see people not wanting to put their home on the market because they don't want people walking through their house that might have been exposed to the coronavirus. I can already see, attorneys' gears turning in their minds about how do we create an addendum to a contract that says, if you or anyone you know or have come into contact with has been subjected to the coronavirus, please sign here. It's just, I see this getting bad, but obviously, don't freak out. Sellers don't freak out. Buyers don't hold your breath. We've only seen, these are some worst case scenarios. We've only seen this for about, a week or so in the stock market. It could obviously rebound, and let's all hope it does. But the reality of the situation is we don't know what's going to happen. And when we don't know what's going to happen, when we have that level of uncertainty, when we have those blind corners I was mentioning earlier, it causes stagnation. It causes people to sit back and say, well, I want to watch things as they unfold before I make a major decision like selling my house or buying a house. And, we get it kind of on a smaller scale, like I said, during election years anyways. It's just, it's something for people to say. I can't recall a conversation in the 15 years I've been selling real estate where somebody said, well, we were going to buy, but Trump got elected or Obama got elected or whoever got elected, and so now we're not going to move because it's not right for our family. I mean, come on, give me a break. It's just something people say. It's in many ways, it's kind of a defense tactic for people that just don't want to talk about the process right now because they're not ready. And fair enough. I mean, I get it. Of course, we talk with people all day, every day. That's what we do for a living. We find people that want to sell their home. We find people that want to buy properties. We match the two together. That's our job. So, of course, you're going to have plenty of people that just aren't ready to go through that process right now. And if they've been in touch with multiple agents, they're going to say what they need to say to kind of get that agent to back off. Because not everybody enjoys having a conversation with somebody about real estate. A lot of agents are very annoying, and they will call you until they're blue in the face or until you pull your hair out and just lose it on somebody. And I've been on the tail end of that plenty of times. Doesn't bother me because I get it. Like I said, our industry can be kind of annoying at times, but that's what's happening right now. Trump's in town. I wanted to help you guys understand what's going on, what the impact to the housing market could be as it relates to the coronavirus, as it relates to the drop that we've seen in the stock market. I certainly don't like watching my money disappear as the stock market drops. Neither do any of you. Are we looking at, 2008 all over again? I don't think so, but who knows? And that's part of the problem. So what I want to talk about next is, what do we look for when a market is starting to shift? What is the evidence that we need to see of a shifting market in order to confidently say, this is what's happening right now. This is what you should be aware of. This is what I'm seeing on my end as it relates to national, regional, and local real estate trends. And here's how it's going to impact you when you buy or sell or invest in real estate. So we're going to talk about what those external and internal factors are when we come back. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you'd like to reach out to me to talk about helping you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 400-8009. Or you can visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or send an email to brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 and each Sunday morning at 10 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We've just talked about what's going on in the world of real estate as it relates to the coronavirus, the major drop in the stock market, which looks like it's going to continue, although who knows really. But we were just talking about the impact now, but the impact potential that this would have on the housing market, which, our economy has been fantastic. The housing market has been fantastic. It's all been great. But now we've got some things that we need to start to consider, which is if this prolongs, if these issues continue to remain, what's going to happen to the housing market? What does that mean as it relates to my job, which is to inform you and consult you on the process of buying, selling, and investing in real estate, which is what this show is all about. And so I do want to say that if you want to reach out to me and have a conversation about your plan, if you're thinking that this might have an impact on you, or if you're somebody that can sell their home right now and there's really no reason for you not to, but there's no compelling reason for you to, might be an interesting time for you to consider at least having that conversation. Let's put that plan in place and at least talk about the pros and cons. Because I think there are a lot of people right now that are waiting for something to happen before they take action. And in those times, there can be some serious money made. So if you'd like to reach out to me, you want to talk more about that, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. or you can visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com, or, of course, send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. So I want to talk about what do we look for as evidence of a shifting market? And this is something that I talk with my clients about at length. When we sit down and we go through, of course, everybody wants to know pretty much the same thing. How much can I sell my house for? How long is it going to take? What are you going to do to help me accomplish my goal of selling my home? What's your commission? I mean, those are really the main things. Oh, and of course, what should I do to my house beforehand to prepare it for sale? And when I sit down and I talk with folks and we really go through things in detail, of course, not everybody I sit down with chooses me or I choose them or they can accomplish their goals. And I'm very upfront with people about what will likely happen when they put their home on the market. And I will toot my own horn. I don't do that very much on the show, but I'm usually right because I've been doing this for a long time. I've sold a lot of real estate here in Charleston, and people want the benefit of that experience. I mean, in reality, we've got, 7,000 agents in our market, and I would say statistically, we are a very young or immature market, meaning there are not a ton of agents out there with a bunch of experience and a bunch of home sales under their belt. It's a lot of new agents that don't really know exactly what they're doing. They know enough to help someone buy and sell, or maybe they've been around for a few years and they've had some sales and they've had transactional experience, but they don't have the budget or the systems to really offer incredible service and go above and beyond for people. And so when we talk about what's happening in the market, and I get asked the question of, hey, how's the market? When do you see any signs of a shift? I want you guys to understand what we look for, what I look for as evidence of a shifting market. And market shift can really best be analyzed by looking at the factors that influence supply and demand. I mean, which all have an overall impact on home prices. So you could also look at it this way. You market shift incrementally because of trends within the specific market you're analyzing. And that could be internal factors or it could be external factors, things like, macroeconomic indicators. So if we look at supply is pretty easy. The number of people that want to buy or need to sell and the number of housing starts, new construction, which is still behind pace, that we're just not putting enough new construction properties on the market. Now, this recent dip in interest rates helps in that it allows builders to finance projects at a lower cost, which reduces their holding cost and overall project cost, which allows them to sell homes and make a little more money, or dip into lower priced homes, which has historically been the problem over the past several years because the cost associated with building an entry level home, especially in Charleston, is tough because the land costs so much. So they can't recoup enough on the back end to make the investment worthwhile, which is why they focus on the middle of the road home to the middle to upper tier home. We got a ton of those. So, we look at the number of people that want or need to sell and the number of housing starts, and supply impacts home prices. And of course is one half of what we look at to measure the health and balance of a real estate market. The other side, of course, being the demand side. The demand side is much more inclusive. It includes things like interest rates and economic growth and the number of households and household formation trends and the availability of mortgages and the affordability of housing, things like speculative demand and consumer confidence and geographic factors. So if we look at just economic growth for a second, I mean, demand for housing, of course, is dependent upon income. And when you've got more economic growth and rising incomes, people have the ability to spend more on houses. This, of course, will increase demand and push prices. In fact, demand for housing is often noted to be the income elastic or the quote-unquote luxury good, where rising incomes lead to a bigger percentage of income being spent on houses. So, I mean, just in a recession, falling incomes mean people can't afford to buy, and those who lose their job obviously fall behind on their mortgage payments and end up with their home being foreclosed on. I mean, look at what happened 12 years ago. So then we look at something like unemployment, which is incredibly low right now. So related to economic growth, when unemployment is rising, fewer people have the ability to afford a house. But, even the fear of unemployment can discourage a lot of people from entering into the property market. And then we look at something like interest rates, right? Look at how low interest rates are right now and how low they have been for years and years and years now. I mean, Sam, my director of marketing, was telling me this week that, he's now refinancing a house that he bought a year ago, 18 months ago. That's incredible because your interest rate was probably very low to begin with. And so it presents these opportunities, especially with what we've been talking about last segment, which is fantastic. And it, of course, impacts the overall cost of owning a home. It is directly related to affordability. So the saving grace for our market right now is the interest rate because prices have gone up for, at least 8 years now. I think we're at 8 years of price appreciation in our market. And so at some point in time, you have to ask yourself the question of, well, okay, can I continue to afford to pay more and more and more for these homes? Is the wage that I'm earning or expected to earn in the near future consistent with price increases? And we have had multiple years of double-digit price increases in separate areas of Charleston, sometimes year over year. In fact, if you look at it over a 5-year stretch, I think we're at about 30%, 30+% in some areas, which is incredible. And so all this, a lot of it ties into consumer confidence. Consumer confidence is important for determining whether people want to take the risk of taking out a mortgage. Nobody wants to catch a falling sword, right? Which is why a lot of people that are really concerned about the stock market and the coronavirus and the overall economic impact of all of that, some of them are just sitting on the sidelines and they're waiting to happen. They don't necessarily need to move. They would like to move. There are some things that, are driving them to want to sell and, of course, want to buy, but it's not an immediate need. I mean, if you're getting relocated to another state for a job and you own a home, you want to sell it, right? But for the people that would just like to make a lateral move, maybe they own a nice home in James Island and their kids are, one of them's going off to college, another one's graduating next year, and they want to move to Mount Pleasant or Daniel Island or downtown or wherever, and they're okay with buying a smaller home for the same price. And if that interest rate that they have is, 4% or higher, then theoretically they're spending less on a property in a location they want to be in, and they've benefited from appreciation over the years that they've owned that property, which helps afford the down payment for the new place they want to move into. So this is all connected, and consumer confidence has a big part in our housing market. If people fear home prices falling, then they're going to defer. They're going to put buying on hold because they're going to see how much further it's going to drop so that they can get a better deal on the entry-level price of the home that they purchase. And then we've got things like geographical factors. And my God, are we going through that right now? We're dealing with some serious issues with the coronavirus. All of that, of course, is totally out of our control. But that could also be things like, our local economy booming as a result of companies like Boeing coming in and Volvo and, all the different external factors that impact us here locally. So, if you look at all of these different things individually, and then you look at, because I do this with my clients, when we sit down and we talk about pricing their home effectively and, would they rather wait on the market longer to get maybe a little bit more for their house, or would they prefer to price it to sell within the first 30 days, which traditionally is going to get you the best offer anyways if you price it appropriately? If you use the latter, if you use the strategy where, hey, it's okay if it's 90, 120, 180 days before I sell this place, I just want this price for it. The challenge is going to be that you have factors that are outside of your control that might have an immediate impact on the value of your home or the buyer's willingness to pay your price. And those things are things like what we're going through right now with the stock market and the coronavirus. It could be things like your neighbor who has a home very similar to yours is getting a divorce and they need to sell now. That sale, which let's say they price it to sell now. I mean, it's a good $10,000, $15,000 less than your home if everything were the same, and they don't want to wait around. They want to sell it and get out of there. Well, it's not like the appraiser that appraises your home is going to say, oh, yeah, but that was a divorce. That doesn't really count. It does count. It has a direct impact on what buyers perceive to be the value of your home. Or let's say that happens, twice in a row in your neighborhood. Now you've got consistent data that shows that this is what buyers are willing to pay for a home like yours. And so when I'm talking to folks right now and we talk about the severe shortage of supply, there are plenty of people that I've talked to over the past week that, we're thinking about maybe April, grass will be greener then, and things will be blooming. It'll be a better time to sell. And if they have the ability to sell now, I'm encouraging them to sell now, not because I want a paycheck now, but because I think now represents a fantastic opportunity to beat the competition to the table. That's what everybody else lists is in April. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because there are also more buyers in April, but there are plenty of people that are looking now, and they're just kind of forced to sit on the sideline and wait for that right property to hit the market. Maybe your property is that one. I can't tell you the number of times over the past month that I have looked at properties and then done a cursory search for homes that are available or under contract in that neighborhood, and it's like next to nothing. It's like maybe 1, 2. That's a good thing for sellers, because with less consistent data to show people this is what your home is worth, it allows you to push the envelope on your asking price. The only challenge with that is it creates a little uncertainty with regard to what people are historically willing to pay for a home like yours over the past 6 months or so. And it, of course, makes our job a little bit easier because we don't have, it's not like, if in a new construction neighborhood where everything is pretty much the same and sells for pretty much the same price per square foot. If you're in a neighborhood that's a little older where you've got one property that was fully renovated plus another property that hasn't been touched since the 80s, and those are your only two comps, that makes our lives challenging. So then, of course, you need to rely on an agent that knows how to price those properties effectively and knows how much it would cost to turn that home that hasn't been touched since the 80s into the home that was just remodeled 2 months ago. I have the benefit of having flipped and having represented investors that have done well over 100 transactions, have spent millions and millions of dollars, a lot of that my own money, on renovations and flips and repairs and all of that stuff. I can tell you what that stuff costs. And that kind of information and experience counts when you're analyzing how much a home is going to sell for. So if that's something you're considering, you're thinking about selling your house, or if you just want to stay up to date with what's happening in the market, so many of my listeners and people that we communicate with just want to know what's going on over time. So I send them monthly, quarterly reports, whatever kind of frequency you'd like, just to stay up to date with what's happening in the market in the event you don't catch this show every Saturday or Sunday, which I hope you do. But if you'd like that information, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. You can visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And, of course, send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I always like to take a little bit of time and just say thank you to those of you that listen to the show and rely on the information within it to help you better understand the real estate market, make informed decisions about buying, selling, and investing in real estate. Learn more about how we as real estate agents work. Gain some really clear expectations about the process and the market so that when it comes time for you to buy, sell, or invest, obviously you have a friend in the business because I sell real estate Monday through Sunday, but you know what to do, what to say, what to ask to make the right decision. So if you'd like to have a conversation about working together, we'd love the opportunity. My number is 843. This is my cell phone, by the way, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can visit my website, learn more about my team and who we are and what we do and what kind of properties we sell, how we sell them. Listen to, hundreds of versions of this show. I've been doing this 8 years now, selling real estate for almost 15 years here in the Low Country. Listingsincharleston.com is the website, listingsincharleston.com, or you can always send an email to me directly, Brian, that's Brian with an I, at Brian Beatty, Beatty, team.com, Brian at BrianBeattyTeam.com. So in the beginning of the show, we were talking about the impact on the housing market that the fall of the stock market has had in the short term, what could happen in the more intermediate and long term. And of course, we tied in things like the coronavirus, which partly was due to the fact that we had a really, I think, great show about 2 weeks ago where we just took a bunch of your questions. They were just questions at random. I don't know how many questions we had. How many we have? Like 50, between 50 and 60 questions. So thank you for that. That's obviously very helpful because it gives me an idea of what kind of information you guys are looking for. But one of them was, what was the impact to the housing market of that the coronavirus had? And I was not prepared to answer that. And the last thing I'm going to do is come on air and talk about something and blow smoke about something that I'm not an expert in. And for those of you that have listened to this show for either weeks or months or years, I mean, you know that I know my stuff. I'm an industry expert, and I pride myself in my ability to communicate effectively and intelligently and relevantly about this information so that it benefits you. And so as part of that conversation in the very beginning of the show, we talked about how, if this issue with the stock market continues, if the economy takes a bigger hit as a result of the coronavirus and kind of the chain reaction that occurs as a result of that, the market that is likely going to feel this first is the luxury market. It's because people have more disposable income. They have more money invested. They're not necessarily driven by a need to buy $1 million plus home. They would like to. They want it. They usually can afford what they want. But if they feel less wealthy, or if they are less wealthy, it's going to prevent them from making purchases of big ticket items that they don't really need, if that makes sense. So I want to talk about selling luxury real estate. We've been blessed. We've sold quite a large amount of luxury real estate on my team. And so I just want to give you guys some tips for selling luxury real estate. And in this market, I would say 750 and up is what I would consider luxury. But hey, everybody gets the luxury treatment on the Brian Beatty team. Wink, wink. But no, in all seriousness, let's talk about selling luxury real estate. So really the first thing is making the right first impression. And this is, everything from enhancing your curb appeal with landscaping and to rearranging existing furniture, having a professional designer and decorator go in, which we provide at our cost. There are so many different ways to capture the interest of a buyer from the moment they arrive for the first time. And having staged and shown, countless homes, I know pretty much exactly what turns on and what turns off people. And when I walk through a house with somebody, we talk about how to put that home in the best position possible to cater to the most people possible as cost effectively as possible. So like as an example, when we walk through with our professional designer and decorator, we go through room by room and we say, this is what you could do. This is what you should do. This is what you should not do. Do not spend money on this. You're not going to get your money back. It's going to be a waste of your time. It's going to prolong us getting this property on the market. And it's just a waste of resources. It's unnecessary. And so many times I'll have people call me, I'll have people call me after they've done all this work, or they've gotten this work lined up and it's in progress, and they'll either tell me how much they spent on the project and it makes me cringe because I know I could have gotten it for thousands of dollars less, or I could have saved them that expense at all because it's just not necessary. It's just not something that they needed to do in order to get that home sold. So, but the reality is this, outside of staging, buyers don't want to inherit a project, right? Especially luxury buyers, unless that's specifically what they're looking for. If they feel like they're going to have to put a bunch of money into the house, they're going to want you to discount for their effort and time, not just for the cost associated with those projects. And that's something to take into consideration. Look at your competition. See how many of those homes are being presented in its best light. And if there are things that you can do to match or look better than your competition, if you can, and it makes sense financially, then do it, because that's exactly who you're going up against, are the people that might have taken the time up front to sell it. So making the right first impression also means, wowing people. This does relate to marketing. I also think that it relates to the agent that you choose, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't want to get on my soapbox on this because I really don't have the time, but if I see one more $1 million plus listing with iPhone photos, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something. I don't want to say on air what I'm going to do, but which in reality is nothing, but you kind of catch my drift. It's so silly. It's ridiculous. But what can you do? So when we talk about marketing, I always tell people I'm in two businesses. I'm in the business, first and foremost, of representing my clients, consulting them, and helping them buy and sell and invest in real estate. But I am also in the business of finding people to help buy, sell, or invest in real estate. I mean, any business that is truly effective understands this concept. So as an agent, I need to be implementing a marketing plan that works based on my previous results. And online marketing is the place to start, but print media, referral networks are also marketing channels that an agent should utilize, in my opinion. And ultimately, a luxury home needs exposure, but it needs the right exposure. If your agent's plan is to just work on curb appeal and staging and put it in the MLS, you might be able to sell it. But if our market has taught us one thing, it's that your home may have difficulty selling in even the best of circumstances, even with a shortage of inventory, even with incredibly low interest rates. It begs the question, hey, I've had my home on the market for X number of months. Why hasn't it sold? All I'm hearing are these success stories. And, these guys that say, well, John and Sally listed their home with blah, 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 and they sold it in 2 days for $5 million above asking price. And it's just, that is not reality. It can be sometimes that happens and you get this flash in the pan success and you build your whole marketing plan around this occurrence, which also included a little bit of luck, let's be honest. But the reality is this. Agents need to be better at marketing. The days of just putting it in the MLS and pricing it effectively are coming up. Their time is coming. And if you think about what I was saying earlier about the fact that we have all these agents on our market that are frankly new or newer, every year that goes by, experienced agents hang up the towel and they retire. Or they get to the point where they are not really interested in reinvesting a bunch into their business, right? They're not looking for the next best thing that's going to increase productivity and technology that's going to create better customer service or find buyers for their property. They're kind of, they're tired a little bit. They know what works for them. They've got a customer base that's going to come to them no matter what, that wants to buy, sell, and invest in real estate. They don't really have to work that hard anymore. And so for them, they're going to give you what they know and what they're used to. And that can be okay, but it also begs the question of, is that exactly what you want? Do you want the familiarity of an agent that you've known for years that sells real estate and does a pretty good job of it? Or do you want the person that's going to hustle, that has the best of the best in the form of tools and processes and people and systems to help you sell your home for the most money in the least amount of time? A lot of people obviously go with who they know, and that's okay. And I respect that. But I think for the people that really want to get impressed and see how an incredibly effective team can make them more money, can sell their home faster, those are the types of people that we work with. And I really enjoy being able to say with confidence that that's what you get when you hire my team. But, luxury real estate agents, they've got to be innovative. It has to be more than what they typically do for any other home. And if their process is, hey, let's just put this home on this conveyor belt, this set it and forget it marketing approach where we take nice photos, we put it in the MLS, which goes to Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and Redfin and all these other websites. And maybe we do an open house. Maybe we throw it on our business Facebook page. And then they just kind of wait. And after waiting for a while, if a buyer doesn't come around, then what's the solution? Oh, well, obviously we're overpriced. We got to reduce the price now. Agents' marketing plans are not dynamic. They're static. And if they're not changing, if they're not constantly trying to retarget and remarket people that may have initially expressed an interest, if they don't even have those tools, then you're losing opportunities as a seller to sell your house. Or even worse, they do have these properties on these websites, but there's no mechanism for that interested buyer to communicate directly with the listing agent. I dare you right now, go to Zillow and look at some random property in your neighborhood. And when you do, you will see that there will be 4 agents assigned to that listing. One of them is going to be the listing agent. And you hope that the listing agent is the one with the most reviews and the most sales, because that's likely who people are going to contact, unless you have what my team has, which is exclusivity in our marketing. When people go to Zillow and they look at my listings, I'm the only choice they have. Zillow doesn't even offer that anymore. We only have it because we're grandfathered in. I used to pay for that service when they offered it, and then they took it away. But they said, hey, if you're still spending the same amount of money on Zillow, we'll give you exclusivity on your listings. And so the great thing for us is that, yeah, we do all this proactive stuff to find buyers, and I'm not going to get into what we do, but we also have a safety net in place that ensures if somebody goes online and they express interest in my listing, I'm the only person they can contact. There is no other choice to contact anybody else. There are only a handful of agents. I can probably count on 2 hands the number of agents out of 7,000 that still have that feature in our market. And that's huge. So marketing has to change. And we're talking about selling luxury real estate. When we're talking about pricing is something that is challenging, especially if you have a bunch of high-end features in your home. And it's just, it boils down to the experience of the agent. Another tip I'll give you is that you have to be patient with the process. If you sell it within the first 30 days, then fantastic, you hit a home run. It means you were in the right place at the right time and the right buyer was looking for a home like yours. But they take longer to sell. It takes longer to locate the buyers, kind of pin them down and then get them to come and view your listing. It's just a little bit of a longer sales cycle. Last thing I'm going to say really quickly is just work with your agent, not against them. Be open with them, communicate with them, allow them to communicate with you honestly. I think what people want in relationships with real estate agents is trust. But I always say this, there is no trust without accountability. We have to do what we say we're going to do. And luxury clients, luxury buyers, luxury sellers, they have no patience for anything other than the utmost professionalism and somebody that's going to do what they say they're going to do. So if that's something that we can help you with, if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the luxury market, we have a lot of experience in it. We'd love to help you out. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around for the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA, the Big Talker.
Expert news and views on the Low Country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I want to spend the last 2 minutes or so of this show talking to you guys about a kind of a interesting story that I had with a client of mine. She asked me why I thought our team was more successful than most, and my answer was, I could talk about the training and the systems we have and our experience and how we approach sales processes and helping people buy a home and all that stuff. But in reality, it's the people. It's the people that we hire, and we take our time to hire and then train incredibly well. And so with the last little bit of time here on this show, our team is growing. We want to hire more people. But I'll tell you, the thing that I look for in a potential hire is work ethic. I want examples of strong work ethic. I can teach people how to sell real estate. I can teach them the market and how to interact within it and how to interpret it and how to consult our clients. But it is like swimming against the current to try and instill into somebody work ethic. So if you know somebody that has great work ethic, that wants to get into real estate, we have a fantastic track record of helping people get into the business and make 6 figures a year their first year. So if that's something that I can help you with, if you're thinking about getting into real estate or you know somebody that you think might be a great real estate agent, I'd love to have that conversation. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to listingsincharleston.com. Thanks so much, Charleston, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com.